Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
You mean to wish me a good morning? What do you mean that it is a good morning whether I want it or not?
Please go away. Let me speak for the love of God.
All right. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to the only summer edition.
Let's not jinx anything. It's the only one planned so far, but literally this one, you sent me the text message about this one.
Yeah.
I don't even think the final episode had even dropped.
Come off it. We knew that we would be doing a countdown.
We did know, but it's not like we had any kind of break in between. Like there was still a good 2 weeks before the end of the year.
Well, it has been a couple of weeks since we recorded the finale, the Christmas episode. This is, at this point in time, the only summer special that we have planned, and this is, of course, our best of 2024, the top 10 countdown. We gave you our top 2 on the final episode, but I got to tell you, my top 2 have been sort of reallocated because I've watched some movies since that have bumped things around.
I obviously did not do enough of actual scrolling through my letterbox to see what I'd seen this year and what counted as a 2024 film.
Yes,
because there are some that technically would have been 2023,
okay, so
but
yes.
they actually were theatrical in Australia in 2024.
100%. So there's a couple of mine that if you go to IMDb, they say 2023, but that's like their Cannes release or their film festival release. The actual theatrical release was 24 for mine. But anyway, how are you all going? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying the summer. How have you been over the summer? Have you been doing much? Just catching up on the movies, I guess?
No, desperately, rabidly trying to watch films. And before we got on the mic, I went through my list with you of the 30 films that I had that I still haven't seen that I wanted to just in case.
Yep.
You know, including things like Crackoon because, Cocaine Bear made my top 10 list a couple of years ago. So there's no reason why Crackoon wouldn't have also have made that list.
That is true. But, I mean, the comfort there is that I hadn't seen most of your 30 that you haven't seen. So it's going to be interesting. We are, of course, a bit late to the party when it comes to these countdowns for 2024 because we are now in 2025. And most people go out with these a week before Christmas or the week of Christmas.
Yeah, which I think is a cheat because sometimes you get the Boxing Day movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Like your top 10 of the year should be once the year is finished, and you can take a look back.
Most of them have been done in the Goochmas. Have you heard of the Goochmas? I love that term.
No,
that's the period between Christmas and New Year's. They call it Goochmas.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's a fantastic term.
I always thought the Gooch was similar to the Gunt.
Well, the Gooch is that space between.
Yeah.
So it's Goochmas.
Yeah.
We should call this our Goochmas countdown. Anyway, all right, let's do this. Let's do a top 10 countdown. We'll go from 10 to 1. These are these are my favourite films of the year, not necessarily the best films of the year. I don't believe in doing it that way. I like to react to movies emotionally, and these are the movies that I have just had a really good time with.
Yeah.
So you might hear some of mine. In fact, you will hear some of mine. You're like, why the fuck is that in the top 10? It's because I enjoyed them that much. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
So let's start with number 10. Do you want to go first?
Okay. And I did talk about this one on the show.
Okay.
It dropped very late in the year. It is Absolution.
Right, yes. And I haven't seen this one.
Starring Liam Neeson. I believe it's a Netflix.
It's one that, since you said that, it has been on the top of my watch list. And as you know, sort of over the summer break, I've made a point of not watching as many movies as I normally would.
Yeah.
And
you've actually taken a holiday.
I've taken a bit of a break. But they're those movies that I know that maybe I should have watched because it might have crept in.
The thing is, really, they only miss out on being on the list. They still exist, and the beauty of missing these films, is that in 10 years' time you can watch it. Like I after watching this, I went searching around for some other Liam Neeson movies that I hadn't seen.
Yeah,
and I finally got around to watching Marlowe, and I fucking loved it.
Yeah,
I was like, why did it take me so long to watch
Because if you had watched it at the time, you might not have liked it as much.
Yeah,
because
there was a
little bit of hype. All right, so my number 10 is actually Horizon, American Saga Chapter 1.
Yeah, I haven't seen
Kevin
that one.
Costner sprawling epic that's kind of become a disaster because this movie tanked at the box office, and therefore number 2 hasn't been picked up, let alone number 3, 4, or 5.
Well, I believe Madman have it.
Well,
they just can't release it until they release it overseas.
Overseas, it hasn't been picked up, right? And I believe he hasn't even finished cutting number 2. He's shot it all.
I thought they'd all been done. I thought it,
No.
like it was all
No,
finished
like
and
so
ready to go.
if number 2 does not get released, they're not going to go and bother filming number 3, 4, or 5.
Because I thought the original plan was that they were going to release part 1, and then part 2 was going to be like 2 or 3 months later, like really close.
It was going to be that way, but it didn't go the way Costner had planned it to, right? And I read an article about it the other week saying that if it doesn't go the way Costner wants it to, he's going to have no choice but to turn it into like an event series, like stitch them all together for a television event. Because I don't think we're going to see any of the remaining ones theatrical.
I just reckon he's to finish paying for it. He's gearing up for a Shonda Rhimes TV series. He's going to appear in Bridgerton.
Well, I mean,
or Grey's Anatomy.
This is the passion project he's been trying to make for 30 years. It's the reason he left Yellowstone unceremoniously. Like, it's sort of, it's a shame this movie didn't take off because I think it's wonderful. I think it's up there with Open Range. Was that the name of the movie he did? Open Range back in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
with Robert Duvall. And
Open Range was the first movie I ever saw on Blu-ray.
Yeah,
and I remember thinking, it's too real.
Yeah,
I felt like I was watching it through a 7-Eleven security camera. I was like, I don't like this. I don't like it at all.
But you watched it on DVD.
But I watched it on DVD in the video store, and it was fine.
That's right. So I think he's a really good Western director. You know, Dances with Wolves, he's proved himself. He gets a lot of flack for The Postman, but I just think Horizon is a real return to form as a filmmaker and a fantastic, sprawling epic that is all about the expansion across the West, you know, in America, in that era. And so number 10 is, without a doubt,
Horizon. Interesting.
Yeah. Do you agree? Let us know in the comments.
For me, my number 9, and this is one of the movies that I caught up with in the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
Is Love Lies Bleeding.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. I haven't watched this, and I know it's right up, once again, the top of my list to watch.
Well, what I like about it is that it kind of starts out as very much a kind of LA noir. It's not even LA because I don't know where the fuck they are, like somewhere in Texas or something.
I was going to say, aren't they in Arizona or something like that?
Yeah. They're wherever they are, they can drive comfortably to Vegas.
This looks like a very sweaty movie to me.
Yeah, but it's because most of it takes place at...
Ben doesn't like sweaty movies.
I don't like sweaty. Most of it takes place at night.
Okay.
So it's cool.
It's glisten.
Everyone's cooled down, even though they're in the gym.
Yep.
And it's like, workout sweaty is fine. Drug sweaty is where I have the problem.
Yep.
But it's basically like a lesbian noir kind of film.
It has a Coen Brothers feel to the trailer, at least.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't say that after having seen it. It like maybe a kind of more of a Scorsese after. Was it after? Actually, no. It's probably more Into the Night.
Yep.
Kind of thing, and it does at some point. It does just get fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like it's for 3/4 of it, it's a completely normal kind of noir, cool kind of noir film. And then in the last act, it just takes off and gets really fucking weird and fucking nuts. You get to see Ed Harris eat a giant bug.
Yep.
Which is super gross. And you're like, I don't think that's a special
Doesn't he have a mullet in this?
He has. He's got like a Willie Nelson kind of haircut, but he's bald on top. It would be a mullet, but it's so long.
Riff Raffy type?
It's longer than that.
Oh,
it's like he's got like witch hair. Like his hair it's like down to his ass crack kind of thing. Like, but he's bald on top. It's like a ponytail.
Love it.
You know,
love it.
Kind of thing.
Cool. Love Lies Bleeding.
Love Lies Bleeding. Yeah.
Excellent. Which, speaking of taking a turn and going weird and wild, number 9 for me is Strange Darling, which I've been talking about throughout the year quite a bit. This one stars Willa Fitzgerald and Kyle Gallner, who was in Smile and briefly Smile 2. Barbara Hershey, Ed Begley Jr. This is a serial killer movie like no other. Have you watched this yet?
No, it's on my list.
Okay, so that's cool. I mean, it's a movie it's very difficult to talk about because it is just laden with spoilers if you do. Right. However, it's not what anyone would expect. And if you think you know where it's going, you're wrong, right? So
I really like that Willa Holland. She's from Reacher season 1 was the first thing I saw her
It
in.
is an amazing performance. It really is. And also, like, Barbara Hershey and Ed Begley Jr. are just wonderful in this as well.
Ed Begley's in it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's fantastic.
I mean, look, this was on my list. I had 2 must-see films.
Yeah.
And in the end, it came down to the last day, and I was like, well, okay, I can only watch one of these.
Yeah.
And the one that I watched is, I think, number 2 on my list
Okay.
in the end.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Strange Darlings
Can't be helped. Can't be helped.
Didn't get a look
If
in.
you listen to our Christmas end of year episode, Jarrett talked about Strange Darling and how it was Giovanni Ribisi as a cinematographer on this one, which is quite a weird thing to see on screen. Like, you know, obviously a prolific kind of actor, but yeah, just really well shot too. So he might have a future in
Definitely
cinematography.
have to check it out. Yeah. Okay, so for me, number 8 is once again it's a late arrival. I think on Netflix again. Carry On.
Yeah, I loved it.
Which I thoroughly enjoyed, and you did make the very funny joke. Like the only way it could have been better is if Sid Field had turned up.
It's like it's the most serious Carry On film I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I adored this film, and it was an honourable mention for me. It didn't make my top 10, but and it's divided people right down the middle. You got people that hate it with a passion, and people that love it, and I think the people that love it really suspended disbelief and just went along with it. It's Die Hard 1, 2, and 3 all wrapped into one.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, and I thought Jason Bateman, who I didn't read the cast list or anything when I watched it, so when he turned up, I didn't pick the voice. Which was a surprise.
Yeah,
and when he turns up, I was like this, especially after watching that Stephen King TV series, The Outsiders, with Ben Mendelsohn and him. I was like, it's perfect cast. Like he's doing really well now, playing across the spectrum.
Yeah, he's a nice guy, bad guy in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a spoiler either because he's been on the junket trail, you know, promoting the film. You know, it's not a surprise that he's the bad guy. He just isn't revealed for a good 25 to 30 minutes.
Like it is, and it's one of those kind of things where you're like, well, Taron Egerton is actually the most boring character in the film.
Yeah, he's still good though.
He's great,
Yeah.
but he's kind of now sitting in that lead actor position where all he does is react to other actors making cool choices.
Yeah.
Which is 100% his role.
Yeah. And that's where the Die Hard 3 comes into it because it's got a Simon Says component where he's following instructions from this, you know.
Yeah, I will say the only thing I had a problem with was that like he's been at this place, he's been at his job working at the TSA for 3 years. He's never had a promotion because they all think that he's not in it for.
Yeah.
I've had multiple jobs in my life, and never has that been a deciding factor on who gets like seniority, whether you could do the job, not passion for a fucking
but
boring.
that's subtext for how it all unfolds.
Yeah, but it's just it's one of the it's such an odd.
Yes. But I must say, without going into spoilers, I think the demise of the bad guy in this is quite glorious. I really, really love that.
It's great, but the other demise that, and I don't want to spoil it, but the guy, I don't know if the guy's, but Dean Norris is in it.
Yes, that's
right.
right.
At some point, Dean Norris gets
from Breaking Bad.
He does end up expiring.
He's also
Spoiler
he's
alert.
clip face as well from Total Recall.
Yeah. But the thing, like that guy's neck is so thick that I was shocked when they're like, I think he gets stabbed with a pen or something. I can't remember how he dies, but he dies, and you're like, that's a bit. I just don't think it would work.
He's too
thick necked.
It was one of those 4 clicker pens, you know.
Yeah. They must have had all 4.
Yeah, that's
all
right.
4 out.
It was a colourful death.
Well, yeah.
All right. So number 8 for me was Asphalt City, one that I spoke about earlier in the year, was the paramedic film with was it Ty Sheridan and Sean Penn, and it's essentially like Martin Scorsese's Bringing Out the Dead with Nicolas Cage, but sort of contemporized, and it's just life on the street as a paramedic, and it puts you in the situations that they face that they have to make split-second decisions that could change the fate for an entire neighborhood. It's very, very powerful, violent, and just really disturbing drama.
Look, I don't know if I said it at the time when you talked about it on the show.
Yeah.
But it upsets me that Bringing Out the Dead needs contemporizing. How fucking old are we?
Well, I mean, I say that simply. The reason I mean, that's probably a bad way to describe it, but the reason I do is because it's the only comparable movie. It's the only movie I can compare it to. Because it kind of, you look at them together side by side, it could be the same year.
Yeah,
you know. But anyway, you also have Michael Pitt in this, who I haven't seen on screen for a long time, probably not since Hannibal, when he played Vason, or whatever his name is, you know, the bad guy with all the scars. Merger or Merger Vason or whatever his name is.
Yeah, I don't know what his name is.
Yes.
Gary Oldman? Yeah.
The same character, but in the TV show.
Yeah.
And Mike Tyson plays the chief of the the paramedic station, which is so weird, but he's kind of good.
Yeah, right.
So weird. But one thing I want to note is before Sean Penn was cast, it was going to be Mel Gibson in his role, and it would have been even better had Mel Gibson been in the film. So Asphalt City, I think it's on Paramount Plus. And check it out.
Both Sean Penn and Mel Gibson, well past retirement age.
They're very much the same type, aren't they?
But they are. But they're too old.
But that's the point of his character in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're.
I know he really is too old. For
They
this
really
shit.
are too old. They're like past retirement age.
Yes, that's right. And to think Mel Gibson's, he's just directed a new movie, Flight Plan. I think it's called A Flight Risk with Mark Wahlberg, and he's doing Lethal Weapon 5.
Mark Wahlberg, the one with Mark Wahlberg and the awesome bald cap.
Yes, Mel Gibson directed it. Coming soon, but and he's doing Lethal Weapon 5, and talk about really being too old for this shit.
Yeah,
Riggs and Murtaugh in their 70s and 80s.
Wasn't Riggs? Wasn't Murtaugh in his 30s?
He was 40.
40.
40. And that was the premise of the first film. He was turning 40.
Yeah.
And
but isn't he retiring?
Yeah, he's too old for this shit, and he's only got a couple of weeks to go or something like that.
He's going to retire at 40? Is he? I suppose he's got his 20 years in, so he gets his police pension.
You are looking at or listening to two guys that are beyond 40 now, and we still have another, 30 years of work left in us. There's no retirement coming for us.
Yeah.
Support the show. Subscribe.
Yeah. So we can retire.
That's right.
I might get a job at the TSA. Take it easy.
Yeah.
Take it easy working the
There's no paramedic life for me.
the security cameras.
All right. Number 7.
Look, I put in Furiosa.
Excellent.
Dropped into my number 7 because
Very glad.
like I really didn't like Fury Road.
We know it.
In fact, I hated it.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone else seemed to love it.
Yep.
And then this Furiosa came out. I loved it.
Everyone else
Seemed to hate it.
Not this guy.
But I'm quite happy to have it there in the number 7
I'm
slot.
happy for you to have it there. And I was really, it's the wrong word, but I was relieved when you liked it. When we walked out of that one, and the company we were with, they liked it as well. I'm like, oh, good. I wasn't the only one that sort of really, really embraced this one. I really loved. I love the lore they're building. I like that. A lot of people are shitty that they've taken Max out of the series. For me, I kind of like he's got a world he's fleshing out. He's building something bigger than what is Max. Like, he can't just stick with the one character. You know, he's got an imagination that's limitless.
Yeah.
And I love that this one joins up to Fury Road, and I'm really keen to watch them back to back and see how that affects Fury Road as a story.
Yeah.
Do you reckon you might appreciate Fury Road more if you did it as one big loop?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right.
I mean, it is the best thing about Fury Road is that it is the Great Australian Road Trip. You get in the car, you go straight. You don't turn left, you don't turn right. You get to the end, then you turn around and you come all the way back home.
Come back. That's right. That's right. What was it that when he made Fury Road, he, right from the outset, had planned it to be a middle part of a story? Like, he's like, this is not a first, second, third act movie. This is the middle act.
So Charlize Theron is middle-aged Furiosa.
Let's say that. Yep.
Who's old Furiosa?
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, maybe they can come back to her.
Demi Moore?
Maybe they can come back to Charlize Theron.
Charlize Theron. I mean, she's not getting any younger, as they say.
That's right.
She's only aging.
And they can set the time period aligned
just
with
after. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
But then by that rationale, they could have they could have had someone as young Furiosa and then
the interesting thing here is that
morph her into it.
Furiosa meets up with Fury Road, and we're supposed to believe that Anya Taylor-Joy and Charlize Theron are the same at that point in time.
Yeah. I
kind of would have liked for Charlize Theron to have come back, just for that end bit, to bridge it, or even do like a weird sort of, we do de-aging now, but you could do a morphing where you sort of, which they did actually at the start of this. The little girl to Anya Taylor-Joy, they morphed the face with digital. So.
And, I mean, they've had the technology since Michael Jackson's Black or White. They could have done it.
100%. All right, my number 7 is another Aussie film. It's Memoir of a Snail, the Adam Elliott, the new animated one, which I just think is a really beautiful, wonderful film. It's only just had a Blu-ray DVD release in Australia maybe a few weeks ago, December. And It's a story of a brother and sister that are separated as children when their parents die, and they go to opposite ends of Australia. One ends up in Perth, the other one ends up in Sydney. They're both from Melbourne originally. And she spends her whole life in a depressed state trying to find her lost brother, but she has these relationships along the way that are just as depressing, sort of almost abusive, and has to find some kind of light in the darkness. And it's just a really, really well-made, very Aussie comedy, dramatic comedy that has all those mannerisms, those ocarisms that we love in Australia. Like when we had Adam Elliott on the show to talk about it, he is talking about his affection for Chico rolls and things like that. And there's a lot of that kind of stuff in there. And just beautiful. Nick Cave plays one of the characters, and he's fantastic. And the story that Adam Elliott shared with me was that when he had Nick Cave on the casting role, he goes, well, how do you want me to act? He goes, I want you to be Nick Cave. He goes, well, how Nick Cave do you want me to be? He goes, well, take Nick Cave and add a bit more Nick Cave. That's what I want from you. So you get a little bit more Nick Cave. Anyway, just a really beautiful film, and it's a bit of a tearjerker as well. Like, it's a really sentimental film, and I just really, really loved it.
Lovely.
All right. Number 6.
Number 6 for me is Osgood Perkins' Longlegs.
Wow. Was not expecting this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love the film too, and it did come in as an honourable mention for me.
Right. I mean, look, I can understand that because at no point in the film does he have long legs.
Long legs, that's right. He has long fingers.
He's got normal legs.
Yeah.
There's normal legs. The film should have just been called Normal Legs.
Mm.
I can put my normal legs on. But, yeah, I just, this is like one of those ones where just for thorough enjoyment of the film.
Yeah.
I always enjoy Micah Monroe.
Yeah.
I always think she's pretty great, even though when you kind of watch her films, you're like, are you actually giving her anything to do?
Yeah.
Sometimes not really. And in this, she doesn't experience really even any kind of personality fluctuations.
Yeah.
She's always pretty calm through the whole thing, even when she's being weirded out. But look, I love me some Psycho Alicia Witt.
Yeah, she's great in it.
I love me some Psycho Nicolas Cage.
It's a very dark film, and it's twisted. It goes to some really dark places.
And for me, there's some scenes in it that really parallel Deranged.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%.
And which I absolutely
Take
love.
Deranged and Silence of the Lambs and whack them together.
Yeah.
In fact, like I love the first act of this film because he is kind of intentionally replicating Silence of the Lambs and trying to recapture that feel. And I love that stuff, but without telling you what it is, there's a moment in the first act, which you'll know what it is, that really catches you off guard. And sort of you think to yourself, well, I don't know where this movie's going. If he's done that to us as an audience and taken us sort of off track, fuck, you're in the hands of a madman kind of thing. And I like that. I like that about it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, my number 6 doesn't need to be spoken about because it's Furiosa.
Oh,
yeah.
lovely.
Mad Max, a Mad Max saga. So we can move right on to number 5.
For me, number 5 is Heretic.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You like this a lot more than I. Everybody liked this a lot more than I did.
Yeah. Which is like, I guess I can see why. Because it is a very kind of talky film.
That's not what it was. That's not what it was for me. It was. I think it jumps the shark. I do. I think
I can see that.
The final act, I think, just goes a bit far.
So I would have thought that the final act didn't go far enough.
Yeah, no, I had in mind where I thought it was going, and it just didn't.
And it didn't do it. So it's just a surprise.
Yeah.
But look, I'm 100% in camp villain Hugh Grant.
Yeah, this new era.
I just gobble him up with a spoon.
And to think that this new era of villainous Hugh Grant all stems from Paddington 2.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing.
Amazing. Which I still haven't seen, but I have seen Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, so I feel like I don't have to.
And can I say, just as a side note, I have seen Paddington in Peru, the 3rd chapter.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay. As good as Paddington 2?
Few are as good as Paddington 2, but it's as good as Paddington 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which I have seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did, and I enjoyed.
Yeah.
But I will say the other thing that I liked Heretic so much, and I listened to a couple of interviews with Hugh Grant after that. I liked it so much that I'm now willing to go back and watch Mickey Blue Eyes again.
I don't think you're going to pay me to do that. No, maybe. I mean, he was still very what's the word? Like just snobby Hugh Grant back then.
He totally was.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think he's kind of always had. He's always had that. But now it's just done with humour.
One of the films I did watch, over the summer was Notting Hill.
It's a great film.
I could watch it again right now. Like it's a movie that is just endlessly enjoyable.
My favorite part is when he does the press junket. And that, like, we've been through those situations, but when he has no idea what the film is about, and they're like, "Oh, so do you identify with the character?" Guy's like, "Well, I play a killer cyborg, so no, not really."
Do they have any horses in space? Yeah, when I was watching
such a
it
good
with
bit.
my wife, we got to the press junket scene, and she recognised that that's kind of what I do now for a living, and she's like, "This is feeling very weird," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know how he's feeling right now when you haven't prepped enough and your questions are kind of stupid."
Yeah, I've just got my 6 generic questions that could go either way.
What
like,
was your favourite part of the film? Why don't you tell me what your favourite part of the film is, and I'll tell you what I thought of it.
I liked the beginning. What part of the beginning?
All of it. Anyway, cool. Heretic. Number 5 on mine is a little movie that slipped under the radar for a lot of people. It's called Ezra. This movie stars Bobby Cannavale, Rose Byrne, Robert De Niro, Vera Farmiga, and Tony Goldwyn. And it's directed by Tony Goldwyn.
Yes, yeah, I've heard him.
A little bit of a
talking
road
about
movie, and it's about a separated couple, Rose Byrne and Bobby Cannavale, who are married in real life, in case you don't know, and they share an autistic son. And Bobby Cannavale's a stand-up comedian, and when he has this son...
Which I can't imagine.
Yeah, he's kind of good in it. Like he's a very serious kind of comedian, like a sort of a...
He's like a Mark Maron type, not a
Yeah.
not a Rodney Dangerfield. Like,
Yeah, I'm
not
trying to-
one-liners,
No.
not zingers.
No, not zingers. He's a depressed state kind of comedian.
Right.
But anyway, so the son sort of gets into a bit of trouble at school, being autistic and struggling to communicate with other kids and behave himself. And so the school recommends putting him into a special school. Bobby Cannavale's very much of the opinion, no, he needs to be with regular people, learn how to live in the real world, not the special world. And when nobody agrees with him, he kidnaps the son and goes on a road trip with him to LA, where he's booked a gig on Jimmy
Right.
Kimmel. And the road trip is not even him connecting with the son, because they're very well connected already.
Right.
It's him just getting the son away from all the authorities and what everyone thinks he wants or needs, and the meds and all that kind of stuff. It's so beautiful, this film. It really tugs at the heartstring, but not in a really sappy way either. The kid in it is autistic for real and is a wonderful actor. And it's Ezra. It does say 2023 on IMDb, but it hit all the cinemas internationally this year, and nobody seems to have seen it. So there you go. I recommend it. And like I said, Tony Goldwyn directed it. I always like what he sort of has his fingers in.
Yeah.
Here we go. We're up to number 4.
Well, my number 4, funnily enough, is also one that has a 2023
Yeah.
in it. If you look it up on IMDb, and it is one that I talked about on the show. It is Perfect Days.
Oh, yes.
The
Okay.
Wim Wenders movie shot in Japan about the guy who cleans toilets, but he's just very happy in his life.
Yep.
He has zero kind of... he takes his job seriously. It's not like he's coasting through his job as a toilet cleaner. He takes it very seriously. He's very good at it. He takes pride in his work, but at the end of the day, he's finished. He doesn't think about it after work, and he's, I mean, I think I said it on the show at the time that I felt like I was kind of being manipulated by vendors in this, because this guy is too good to be true. He's
Is it a documentary or
no,
it's a feature film? Yeah.
It's a feature film. It's what's the guy's name? Koji Yakasho.
That's right. Yes, I remember. I remember this now, because at the time I said this is a spin-off from Juice Bigelow.
Yeah,
because his dad is the toilet cleaner that loves his job.
That loves his job. Yeah. He after work at night he reads literature.
Yeah.
Like the greatest books ever written, kind of thing, and enjoys them.
Yeah.
He listens to 70s music on cassette tape in his van.
Yeah.
And he all his music taste is perfect. And he's into he's like Wes Bentley watching the plastic bag in American Beauty. It's like he's that kind of person. Sometimes isn't things so beautiful? Whereas you kind of like, and you watch it and you're like, oh look, this guy's just he's living the perfect life. I wish I could be like him. And then you're like, no, I don't.
The way that skid mark goes around the S-bend, it's beautiful.
This is horseshit. I'd be bored within 5 seconds of doing this. I feel like, for me, it's the prime example of reading the MIF guide. The MIF guide, at the start of MIF, you buy a passport and you look at all these films and you're like, fucking oath, I want to see that, and I want to see that, and I want to see that, and I want to see that. And then you go back and you're like, I'd be asleep in 10 minutes of this. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. This is going to be terrible. Like, this is, I'm not going to be able to, I don't have the attention span for this. But it is,
I just love that Wim Wenders is still making movies. Like, he was a name that was big on my radar back in the 90s. I was going through film school, and I loved everything he did. And then it kind of fell off my radar, but he's still going strong. Seen him on a few of those Criterion Closet videos, and cool. All right, that brings us. Well, it's my number 4, isn't it? Civil War, the Alex Garland film, which I really, really loved, and it's a very realistic depiction of what America could be if it goes in the wrong direction. Some would say in the direction it is going. But I think the best thing about this film is the fact that Alex Garland is a Brit, and he's made this, and it's an outsider's perspective, and it's not it's all about a civil war that breaks out in America, and it's not a north-south kind of civil war. It is like broken into 5 territories across America that are all at war with each other. And it's not red and blue. It's not red and blue.
But doesn't it all stem from the president, played by Nick Offerman, deciding that which is a very typical dictator move. Like you can, even in Evita, there's bits where he goes, if we didn't have to run for elections, then I could, we could really fix the country.
Absolutely.
And that's what this guy has basically done.
Yes, that is what he's done. And the storyline here that's threaded through is a couple of photojournalists that need to get to Washington to put the microphone in his face, right?
Well, I think they know that the final push is kind of
coming.
happening.
That's right.
Yeah. And they want to get there to cover it, and they do want to get the interview with.
Yep, absolutely. But the best thing about it is that Alex Garland, being an outsider, doesn't really take a side. He sits on the fence all the way through this, and everybody is sort of portrayed in a negative way. Like, everybody's kind of at fault in this whole fucking catastrophe, and I love that. Like, I feel like if it was an American telling the story, they would have just been a very lopsided kind of story, and this one's not. I think everyone from political sides can watch this movie and take something away from it. Yeah,
I mean, I would say even more so than that. When you watch it, you realize that it doesn't really matter what side the soldiers are fighting on.
Yeah.
They're soldiers, and they're in a very stressful situation, and they all do things that the other side would consider to be a war crime.
Yeah.
But they're all like... Yeah, the whole thing is just so completely fucked up.
Absolutely. And it's a very, very realistic war film too. Like, you feel like you're watching a Vietnam kind of war film because it's got a very heavy modern music soundtrack. Like, how Vietnam's defined by the music. Yeah. This movie's kind of defined by modern music, and it's really well done. And the movie I'd compare it with, as far as like the feeling and the style, it would be Children of Men, if you remember that one, and that was really gritty and sort of on the ground, a lot of rubble, a lot of fucking violence.
That's
what this movie feels like.
Look, I rewatched Band of Brothers again pretty recently, and there is that scene, I think, in the second episode where they've just landed in Normandy, and they're all kind of meeting up again, and as they're coming in, I can't remember the lead guy's name. The guy from Billions and his men kind of join up with the rest of it. Yep. They walk past a bunch of German prisoners that are kind of on the side of the camp, and one of his men recognizes, finds out that one of the guys there is a German, but he grew up 2 towns away from him, kind of thing. And they have this conversation. As he walks on, he hears them being executed in the background because they just don't have the facilities to take care of prisoners. Yep. So they just kill them all.
Get rid of them.
War crime.
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of war crime in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. All right, brings us to number 3.
Number 3 for me, which I think was the film I talked about on the show.
Okay.
As my number 1.
Yep.
Is Saturday Night.
Yeah, cool. Honourable mention for me. Great film.
The SNL film.
I feel
thoroughly enjoyed about it.
Yeah.
Loved Milty. Loved everyone in it. Chevy. The only person I really didn't kind of connect with was... John Belushi.
Yeah.
But I've never really got Belushi.
We've had this conversation, maybe on the show, but definitely you, me, and Jared have the conversation where I do feel like it's a very... it's a fictionalized account of this very first episode, and I feel like the way they've portrayed John Belushi is not in any way, shape, or form how it would have gone down.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've always had this kind of opinion of Belushi, and I think it like when you look at everyone else from SNL, the movies they did, like they were, they're from this is from the mid to late 70s.
Yeah.
When they were big.
Yeah.
Most of them I became familiar with because they did kind of family friendly yet still adult kind of content. Three Amigos,
Ghostbusters.
Coneheads,
Yeah.
Ghostbusters, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Belushi, Blues Brothers, which I loved, but I didn't really appreciate until I was,
Older.
5-10 years older than
Yeah.
when it kind of came out.
Yeah.
So for me, Belushi has always been this guy that everyone says is hilarious.
Yeah.
And I'm like, except when I watch him, I don't think it's funny.
No, I'm not a huge Belushi fan. I think Dan Aykroyd was a real genius on the show back in the day.
I mean, I think he's great. And don't get me wrong, Blues Brothers is a masterpiece.
Yeah, yeah.
He's great. I love Continental Divide.
Neighbours.
Yeah, I love Neighbours.
Yep.
Like, I love a lot of his films. But especially on SNL, every time his segments came on, when I watched those early episodes, I'm like, I hit the fast forward button.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know until afterwards, watching the film, the guy that played Dan Aykroyd is the guy from Maze Runner.
Yeah.
Like, what a transformation.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah.
I never would have given him credit, that he was that good an actor.
Yeah.
Because he's previously not been.
Yeah, he's like a pretty boy.
And was it he in that Aussie one, the Monsters one? Love and Monsters?
I know that he's in The Interns.
Yep. Love and Monsters. Is that the name of the one? The
Yeah.
Aussie one? Yeah. Yeah, I think he's the lead in
Is he
that.
the lead in that? Yeah.
Anyway. Alrighty, what are we up to?
Dylan O'Brien.
Number
You're
three.
number 3.
All right, so these next two were my 1 and 2 on the Christmas show, but another film came along and slid into the number 1 place. But Piece by Piece, which is the Pharrell Williams Lego documentary, it just tells Pharrell Williams' story from his days at school, forming the Neptunes, which became a very popular and famous and influential producing duo. They also made some of their own tracks, but produced a lot of things like Beyonce and No Doubt and things like that.
See, this is the reason I kind of didn't want to see it is because I've never really... Pharrell Williams is another one like John Belushi, where everyone has told me what a genius he is. But when I've listened to his stuff, until Happy came along, I couldn't have told you a single one of his songs.
I've been into Pharrell Williams from fairly early on, and I do love and I do think he's a genius. But I got on board with him from the NERD days. He did a rap hip hop duo, NERD, which is it's essentially the Neptunes with a new name, and they sort of became their own thing. But this is a glorious story. Like, I've already known the story and where it goes, but being told in Lego makes it so much more fun, and it's really loud, and the music, they give a lot of time to each song, like some of the big hits along the way. It's not like
what you want.
It's not like you get 30 seconds. You get the whole song, but as the song's going, he'll come in and tell you a little bit about how this was done, and the Lego animations is beautiful.
Are the people coming in telling you how it's done Lego as well? Or
Yeah,
are they the
everyone
people?
and everything in it is Lego. And apparently the reason he wanted this done in Lego in the beginning was, one, he just didn't want to be part of a documentary that's just like every other documentary, but also he was trying to work out a way that he wanted to include his wife and kids without putting them on screen.
Yeah.
And he thought, my kids would love a Lego movie. Let's make it all Lego. And
Just do it out of
it
Lego.
just gives it such an innocence. Oh, and when Snoop Dogg comes into it, it is the best. He comes out before they get into the studio and Snoop Dogg walks in the room, and they pull out a Lego version of what's called PG spray, and it's like all the mist and the dope smoke.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you got like this fucking marijuana haze across the whole screen, but it's PG spray. It's so well done. Beautiful film. Love it. And there we go. That's my number 3.
I would love to see a documentary on them pitching this to Lego.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if that's an extra feature on the
I
home
have
release.
seen a little bit of and I don't know if this is included when it comes out on physical media, but I know that the film is introduced by Pharrell in live action, saying like, you're about to watch something that's pretty weird and different, and I hope you enjoy it. But then I saw another excerpt from that same recording session where he goes into the details about how they had to pitch this to the networks and all the various buyers and stuff.
Did they have to go to, was it Sweden or?
I don't remember.
Where's
but
Lego from?
It's from. I think it's the fact that it was Lego in and of itself just had people on board, because all the Lego movies have done gangbusters.
Yeah, but how did they get Lego on board?
I know, particularly with stuff like the
PG spray.
PG spray.
Yeah. It's an interesting. Do we want our IP associated?
I think they would have.
I think Happy probably did a lot.
I was about to say
to
they
it.
leaned into the Happy era. Yeah, for sure.
And the like Lego would have been like, we could do stupid hats.
Well, that was the other thing.
big
Apparently,
stupid
they really, really spent a lot of time getting like the African American hairline right and stuff.
Yeah, right.
Which and they do it really well. So anyway, there we go. That's mine. Piece by Piece. I can't wait to own it on 4K or Blu-ray, either one, and watch it again.
Yeah, right. Cool. Okay, so for me, number 2 is the film that everyone was kind of talking about, I feel, this year. And I missed it because I think I was interstate when we had the media screening, and usually if I miss a media screening, that means I don't see it.
Yeah, I think I know where you're going with this one, given that you've only got 2 left.
I've only got 2 left,
And
I haven't. Yeah, we have not discussed my
okay,
number one.
if it's what I think it is, I missed the media screening for this one because an interview fell through, and I just sort of like, well, I don't have to see the film now.
Yeah.
But I wish I had because everyone's talking about it, and I have a funny feeling yours is Melzy's number 1.
Yeah, I believe so. It is The Substance.
Yep, that's it. Damn.
It is. It's great. Like it is. It's like Cronenberg. If Cronenberg directed Aerobic Soul Style.
Awesome.
It's great.
So,
like, and the sound design is super gross. The visuals are super gross. It's directed by Coralie Fragrat, who did what was her film from a couple of years ago, the Rape Revenge film, which I think was actually just called Revenge.
Yep.
Which we, funnily enough, played at Monsterfest in 2017. It is excellent. Like, and everyone, like Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley are brilliant in it. Dennis Quaid probably is a bit of a misstep because he's the kind of he's not really a villain because the villain really is the Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley.
Yeah.
Like, if you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil anything, but basically, I don't think it's a spoiler. It is what the film's about.
Yeah.
Demi Moore is like this aging aerobics TV star.
Yep.
And Dennis Quaid's the head of the network who wants to replace her with a younger version.
Uh-huh.
And Demi Moore gets this
Fountain of youth serum, isn't it?
she gets hold of this serum that basically could make a younger version of herself.
Yep.
Or a younger beautiful person. That becomes Margaret Qualley. But I won't spoil how they do it and how it gets weird. But Demi Moore is still in it.
Yeah.
They basically
Cool.
They have it week on, week off.
Yeah.
So 1 week she's Demi Moore, 1 week she's Margaret Qualley.
Margaret Qualley is Andy McDowell's daughter.
She is, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. She's actually had a couple of films this year because she was Drive-Away Dolls as well.
Yeah. And she was really good in that. And I didn't take to her very easily, but Drive-Away Dolls is the one that really sort of solidified it.
I mean, I think the first thing I saw her in was maybe Donnybrook.
Yeah, geez.
Way back in,
I
like...
I love that movie. I forgot she was in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's brutal.
Yeah.
Far out, yes.
But yeah, look, this one definitely recommend. I think it's out.
It's definitely out on physical media. We've got a 4K coming
Yeah.
in the coming weeks, but Blu-ray and DVD are already out.
So definitely worth picking up, I would say.
All right, my number 2, another musical one. It was my number 1 previously. Wicked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love it. By now, most people that want to see it have seen it. It's the revisionist version of The Wizard of Oz and the tale of the origin story of the two witches, Glinda and the Wicked Witch of the West, adapted from the stage play that is adapted from a revisionist book. And like I said on the last show, like I don't like revisionist stuff when it comes to Wizard of Oz, but this one was so glorious. It recaptured the classic MGM kind of feel. Music was wonderful. I enjoyed the music in this more than the stage version, which I had seen on film. And it has such a great climax that, like, I almost climaxed watching it. Like, it was so fucking glorious. And when I went back to the cinemas and saw it a second time, it hit me even harder. So I really, really cannot wait for Wicked Part 2, which comes out this coming November. So
Can I just say that the reason one of the main reasons I haven't seen it and probably will not see it is because that Cynthia Erivo...
all the press stuff?
Well, not because of anything she said or done in it, but she's got one of the nose piercings
The
where
bull
it's
ring.
the
She's got a
bull ring.
bull ring, yes. Not in the film, though.
I can't handle it.
She doesn't have it in the film.
Yeah, it doesn't. Every time I see her with that thing, it really just puts me off, and I'm like, I just don't want.
No, I get that. She puts me off in person. Like I thought I'm going to struggle with this when I heard she was being cast. I was really against it because of the fact that I've never liked her personality.
Yeah.
When she does interviews, she's a Broadway star. She's done a few TV things along the way, but she's always very. I don't know. She's all about causes.
Yeah.
And she's all about doing the right thing, but making sure everybody knows she's doing the right thing and all that kind of stuff. And on the junket trail, she's getting all teary and stuff. But in the film, look, if she gets nominated for an Academy Award, I won't be surprised. If she wins the Oscar, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
She's that good in it. So, you know, a bit of humble pie when it comes to that. So there you go, Wicked.
All right.
He's Wicked.
That was your number 2, wasn't it?
Yeah. Do you
So
want
my number 1.
Yeah. The big moment. Do we need to build up to this? Or?
I'm super interested to see if this is the one that you checked out, because I don't know what your number 1 is either.
Came from nowhere in the last couple of weeks. I'd never heard of it until I was scrolling and found it, watched it, and I said to my wife, this is the best thing I've seen this year.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, I'm very interested.
Okay.
For me, it's similar, except I had known about it since it won the Palme d'Or at Cannes this year.
Oh, what is it?
It's Anora.
No, but I've been told I should see Anora.
Anora is absolutely fantastic. For me, it's a great companion piece to now I can't remember the name of it. The
Tangerine.
No, the same guy, but the stripper movie. So the girl's name.
Yeah. I know where you're going, because he did Red Rocket, he did Tangerine, and he did the Florida Project.
Yeah, no. It's which I think is the same guy, but no, it's I can't, Taylor.
He came prepared for his number 1, folks.
Taylor. What's her name?
So one of the interviews we've got coming up early this year, one of the first ones on the show, I will assume, is with an actor called Clay Bangs, who was Dracula on the Netflix Dracula series recently, and he's in a new one coming out called William Tell. I was chatting with him, and he was telling me, because I said, "What's the best thing you've seen lately?" And he said Anora, and he said to me, "If I haven't seen Anora yet, add it to the top of my list. It's one of the best things ever."
It is great. It's the movie I'm thinking of. Coleman Domingo stars in it, and the guy who is Andy. Who's the Mighty Mouse guy?
Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman in Saturday Night.
Yes,
that guy.
Yes.
That guy is in it. This is this is type 2 diabetes, aka
it's either,
dementia.
It's either that or a stroke.
Type 4 dementia is.
Dying here.
What's the name of the film? Where is it?
Given this is his number 1, he's come locked and loaded.
No, well, I can talk about the film. I'm just trying to think of the other film.
I know you are. It's a massive. It doesn't matter.
Why is it not there?
I love that Coleman Domingo's sort of come from nowhere. He's one of those actors that's been around. He's a bit like what's his name from Breaking Bad, Esposito. What's his name? Fucking
Juan Carlo
Esposito. He's been around for 40 years, but all of a sudden he's like had a resurgence.
He's in everything. Yeah.
Same with Coleman.
Zola.
Of course.
Zola, which I think was maybe my number 1
That's not
film.
the same director though, is it?
No, not the same director, but they're both stories about strippers. That's why I was like, it's not. No, Sean Baker is the guy who did Red Rocket.
All right, we're back on track.
Project.
We are back on track.
But so basically, Anora is the story of it's Mickey or Mikey Madison who's one of the Charlie Manson killers in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and she plays this stripper of Russian descent.
Margaret Qualley was as well
in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah. They're all. What's his name was in it too?
Dakota Fanning. Anyway, I digress this time.
Yeah,
Keep going.
I don't want to. Sydney Sweeney's in it.
Oh, no.
Just in the background.
I was just trying to do a little bit of a connection there.
Yeah. And she works as a stripper, and one night at the club, they get a request for someone who can speak Russian, and there's this kid who I think is what's his name? Mark. I can't even pronounce his last name. This kid Ivan, she hangs out with him. She speaks Russian because his English isn't too great. Her Russian isn't too great, but enough that they can communicate. And he kind of then basically kind of books her for another night.
Yep.
And she, despite her claims otherwise in the film, she's not a prostitute, but she kind of is.
Okay.
And then it becomes like a kind of a girlfriend experience, and then he basically asks her to marry him. And then as it turns out, because he's loaded, his parents are like Russian oligarchs,
right?
And of course, when they hear about it, they send over a couple of fixers to get the marriage annulled. And she thinks that he legitimately loves her, and there's all this kind of stuff that happens about them trying to get the marriage annulled and her not wanting to, and all this kind of stuff. But it's really great. But her character, you do feel sorry for her in the film, but at no point she's not like a hooker with a heart of gold.
Yeah, right.
She is hard as nails,
Cool.
full of brass, and she doesn't change. She doesn't have an epiphany.
Love that.
She doesn't really, he's not the love of her life. Everyone is true to themselves in this film, and yet you still feel for her and the emotional trauma of what's happening.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic.
I'm on board.
Fantastic
I love
film.
him as a director, so yeah, definitely very keen.
Definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I've had it recommended a few times. Wicked. All right, so my number one is a documentary of all things. I do love a doc. I'm growing to love documentaries more than features sometimes these days. Like they're just really, I don't know,
Or biopics.
they're just getting more mature. I don't even know why documentaries are hitting me harder. Am I getting older or are they getting better? I don't know. But this one's called The Remarkable Life of Imberlin. Have you heard of it?
No.
Not many people have.
I would have thought if it was going to be a doco, I would have thought it would be the Sparks doco.
Oh, that was years ago.
Was it? I thought it
Yeah,
was just
Sparks
last
doc is like 4 years old.
year. Is it?
Yes. It would have been.
Yeah, right.
So, The Remarkable Life of Iberlin, I should say, is fantastic film about this. I wish I could remember what country it's from. I think it's Norwegian, if I'm not mistaken. Boy that has muscle dystrophy disease. It's a very, very rare one that means that as he gets older, his body breaks down and he's wheelchair bound, blah, blah, blah. And he ends up dying right at the start of the film. They start with his death, but he left the password to his computer to his parents, right? Deliberately for them to access his computer. And when they got into it, they realized
some weird shit.
They realized that he had a whole other life inside World of Warcraft, right? And he had been this really, really pivotal figure inside a specific community in World of Warcraft. And this documentary, and he also kept a blog secret on the side, right? But this documentary goes into his life as a character and the lives he affects as a character. And they end up getting hold of some of these people that were interacting with him, and they're live talking heads, which is really cool. But then they get animators to animate the entire story in World of Warcraft style, right? And everything that comes out of their mouths is based on 45,000 pages of text and dialogue that he had in this chat, right?
Right.
And it is mind-blowing the way this story goes. And his parents, to realize that the things that they thought he was deprived of, like being able to love, being able to do all these things, he did in this world. And it is just, like, I get shivers thinking about it. And my wife, at the end of it, like, she's usually, like, sitting beside me reading a book or something and just looks up. I look at my wife at the end and she's got tears pouring down her face. And she's watching this film about World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
And it really does also open a lot of people's eyes to how important something like online gaming can be for people when you just think, oh, my son's on it all the time. What the fuck? Get off the game.
Yeah.
Not realizing he's having an impact on other people's lives inside the game. Because it's not just a game. It's a community.
It's an immersive experience.
It's a social experience. And
the thing that upsets me is that I know that if I left something like that to my parents, my father would go to my sister and go, how do I wipe this so I can use it? He wouldn't even bother.
Well, what it was is they found his blog, and what they decided to do, and this is before the funeral, it's almost like a day or two after he died. He was only 21 or 22 when he passed away. They did a final blog and says, look, the end of the journey has arrived. He has passed away, blah, blah, blah. And suddenly they just got slammed with thousands of condolence messages. Not where are these all coming from? And then the head of the society within World of Warcraft got in touch with them and says, here's like 45,000 pages worth of dialogue. Your son has impacted thousands of lives. And then, without going into spoiler territory, because it kind of has a story of its own, some of them come to the funeral and speak, and it's just amazing. And I didn't think I would be so moved by something like this. So The Remarkable Life of Iberlin. Yeah, I mean, Iberlin is his character's name. Iberlin's his character's name, and The Remarkable Life of Iberlin, and just a beautiful film. Number one with a bullet. Like, it is so fucking out there as number one.
Right.
So far from everything else. Yeah, loved it.
Yeah, I haven't even heard of it.
Loved it. So there we go. That's it. That's our top 10 countdown.
For 2024.
Yep.
Wrapped.
Do you want to do some honorable mentions before we wrap it up?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, look, I'll just go through a handful, then you go through a handful. I'm not going to really stop to talk about them unless Ben wants to, but I had The Beekeeper down there. I thought that was
fucking
fantastic.
hated that movie.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I loved it. I've got Rebel Ridge down there, which
I forgot Rebel Ridge. That's great.
didn't make the 10 simply because I think it kind of went a bit over long and sort of off the tracks a bit in the middle act.
Yeah, look, for me, the third act, the kind of revenge,
Yeah.
kind of wasn't strong
Yeah,
enough.
That's what I mean. Like it kind of
Like compared to Blue Ruin and Green Room,
yeah.
which are incredibly strong in the third act to the point where you're almost pumping your fist.
And
in
it wasn't
the
as
cinema,
hardcore
like,
as
this
those.
is
It wasn't
fucking
as
great.
hardcore as those either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this one
Look,
doesn't
honorable
have it,
mention.
but-
I did enjoy it. I actually had Ricky Stenicki on there because I just had a really good experience with that movie. I really laughed a lot.
I would argue, and you've seen more musicals this year than I have, but I would say that Ricky Sticky actually has the best songs out of any.
It does. I mean, it kind of is in line with your number one. Like, his character when he's singing those songs.
Yeah, totally.
I got The First Omen in there. Carry On, Saturday Night Live. Sweet Dreams, which is the new Johnny Knoxville baseball movie with Theo Von and Bobby Lee. It's a really cool drama that's sort of a bit like Bad News Bears, but with a real hard dramatic anchor. And yeah, that's about it. I reckon maybe Late Night with the Devil. Whack that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, I had The Apprentice,
Oh, yeah.
which
cool.
was really,
Yep.
which is surprisingly good.
Yep.
Wicked Little Lies,
Yes.
which
yes.
I thoroughly enjoyed at the start
That
of
was
the year.
really. Oh, Coleman was great in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Abigail, which was actually in my kind of top 2 or 3
Yep.
In the show, and Alien Romulus.
Yeah, everybody is really taking to Alien Romulus, and I
Yeah.
agree. I think it's pretty good. I had a couple of little bones to pick with it, but other than that, I think it's the best Alien sequel since Aliens.
Yeah, and look, I'm disappointed in myself because I watched that one at home,
Yeah.
and I think had I watched that in a cinema with friends and with a room full of people, I
Yeah.
would have got a lot more out of it than I did, and it still made my honourable mention.
And a damn shame that it's not going to have a physical media release in Australia. So,
So
we
weird.
can't add it to our collection because it's
so
Fox.
weird.
Yeah, Fox, Disney.
Yeah.
Not doing it.
I just import it.
Well, yeah, you can import it, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
But
it's
yeah.
just a real fucking pain in the ass.
It's
that
a weird.
some of the best
decision.
movies and the big movies of the year coming through Disney just don't get a release here, and it's a real slap in the face for fans. But anyway, any others?
Look, you mentioned a couple of them.
Okay.
Late Night with the Devil.
Yep.
Um,
Awesome.
Stuff like that.
There it is. There it is. A little bit of a summer special for you all. Hope you enjoyed. Leave us comments. Let us know what your favourites were. Do a top 10 if you want, or even a top 3, whatever. Let us know what your number 1 is at least. Socials, hit us up. goodmoviemonday.com. We're going to be back on March 3rd to do it all over again. You can look out for our segments on the Movieland podcast, which is dropping every month. We do little conversations about old titles that you might find in the back of the video store in the day. And that is it. All right, Ben, that's been fun.
Cool.
Or should we go get some food or something? I don't know.
Why don't we get into our bikinis and have a little ice bath
Sounds good.
together?
Let's do it.